Welcome to beautiful Dublin, a place where the potatoes and the sun are equal mysteries. Seriously, I don't think I've seen the sun shine the entire time we've been here. As exciting as that is, today we'll be looking at something even more excitinger, and that is the Irish pharmacy. Come with me today as we explore Ireland's best pharmacies and compare American healthcare and Irish healthcare. I'm Grant Harding, a licensed pharmacist in 4 states abroad. I hired a pseudo-Italian vagabond I met at a poetry reading in Baton Rouge to accompany me on this trip. First we had the local delicacies, and it was quite honestly the worst thing I've ever tasted in my life. And they had this portal to other countries that you could look through. We had one in New York, but people ruined it. And of course we had to see our friend Jimmy, old Jimmy Joyce there. Happy to see me, he is. And they had the world's largest tower thing I've ever seen in my life, and also a market. Here we found a chemist, which is how they refer to as pharmacy here in Ireland, and we're going to go take a look inside. We took a look at a few Irish pharmacies, and to my dismay, they were largely not homogenous. They had all sorts of different products. Some you see in America, some you don't. Like this kin gingival complex thing, as far as I know, we don't have that. We do have something similar, though, and it requires a prescription. Look, you can see a Vino. There's lots of different independent pharmacies, as well as what I'll assume are like large chains like our Walgreenses, and some pretty standard supplements. Like right here you see Centrum. I mean, that's a pretty popular brand in America. Wow, what an important day for the entire nation of Ireland. It's not every day that you have a licensed pharmacist in 4 states come to your country. So I got a cough syrup, Benylin. I think that is just adorable, and I think this is cute. They distinguish between the dry coughs and other coughs, and they also pluralize cough, apparently. We don't do that in America. Dextromethorphan isn't really that effective, honestly. It works in the brain and kind of like just reduces your ability to cough. There's not a whole lot of side effects, but do be aware this interacts with SSRIs, any serotonin reuptake inhibitors, which is that can cause serious issues if your brain is overloaded with serotonin. Things like nausea, vomiting, throwing up, those can happen. Now, what's interesting about this is whenever I was buying this, they're like, do you have a wet cough or a dry cough? And I said, dry cough. And it doesn't really matter because the active ingredient here is dextromethorphan, and it does absolutely nothing. I shouldn't say absolutely nothing, but it's not very effective. But take a look at the packaging here. It's much different than we're used to seeing. It doesn't have the label in America that is in plain English. And in fact, it was difficult for me to even know what I was talking about because I didn't know what I was holding. I think I looked a little bit dumb when I was in the pharmacy as well. The price of this was next to nothing. It was like probably the equivalent of $1 or $2. Much cheaper. Oh no, this looks bad. Now take a look at this. The concentration is different. 7.5 milligram per 5 ml. But look, this is glass. It looks like medicine. Let's see if this helps with my cough. Now, they don't give you a measuring device. I don't like that. Come on, Ireland, do better. I'm just kidding. Unfortunately, I don't have access to a teaspoon, but I at least want to smell this. And we can taste it too. Wow. Okay, that has a much better taste than what I'm used to. It has a little bit of a bite to it, almost kind of like it's spicy. I don't know if that's intentional or not, but it's kind of soothing. It does have a faint berry flavor, almost kind of an earthy berry. But, by the way, this is very viscous as well, which I am a fan of. Having a viscous liquid actually does help soothe the throat and may help reduce a cough actually in and of itself. Even though I'm not the biggest fan of dextromethorphan, it is probably the best on the market because there's just really nothing else that's good on the market. So I do have to give a Benylin a thumbs up. One of the things I was really shocked about is that there were quite a few meds that we have in America that weren't really that interesting. But they do have something called Solpadeine, which is used for pain. Anyway, it's codeine. It's an opioid pain reliever, and these pharmacies acted like they had never heard of it. I actually did hurt my ankle yesterday, and I thought, well, this is great. I'm going to be able to try this out and see how it works, even though I have had it before, and I think codeine is a horrible chemical. And they just wouldn't even give me the time of day. I said I have pain, and they said, all we have is ibuprofen. Like, they would just cut me off and make things very quickly. And they would make it very clear that they had nothing other than ibuprofen, which is a good thing, I think. I hate codeine. I do not think it's a good chemical. It's not effective, first of all. And I wish we didn't even have it in America, honestly. I think it causes way more harm than good. Codeine specifically. Now, other opioid pain relievers, they have their place. But especially whenever you consider that codeine is metabolized into morphine, not everybody reacts the same way to codeine, and that makes it very difficult to predict the appropriate dose, which basically makes the drug useless. Unless you want to do genetic testing first, it's not worth it. Here's an interesting one. Emazole. They acted like I was stupid for asking what this was. So this is esomeprazole. We have this in America, but I love the packaging here. This is much different. We got the Braille writing on here. Esomeprazole is a proton pump inhibitor, which means it goes through your stomach, into your intestines, it gets absorbed, and then it stops this hydrogen pump in your stomach, and it just lowers the protons in the stomach, or the pH in the stomach, or it raises the pH in the stomach, making it less acidic. So for folks like me who struggle with heartburn, this is well needed. And for the most part, there's not a whole lot of side effects. I noticed here their packaging doesn't talk about the long-term side effects here. You know, that's a no-go in the United States. It does have some issue with mineral loss, so people can develop like bone health issues from that. And I think this is something that the United States should definitely adopt. I love that they do this here in Ireland. The Braille writing makes the use of this medication much easier, obviously, for folks who are visually impaired. I have very bad heartburn, and it started on the plane over here. Interesting that they prefer tablets. Ours are typically capsules. I'm going to try this out here. Now remember, you cannot break or chew this. Let's take a look at some more meds while we wait for that to kick in. Here we have a European gold standard paracetamol. So this is just Tylenol for us. I want to know what dose. Oh, here we go, 500 milligrams. Okay, so that's typically the dose that we use. Now remember, acetaminophen is a medication that helps with muscle-related pain and also fever. 1 to 1.5 tablets every 4 to 6 hours. Interesting. We never dose this in 750 milligram in America. Do not exceed 8 tablets. That's the same warning that we have. Remember, if you go over 8 tablets, which in this case would be 4,000 milligram or 4 grams, that would put you at risk for developing liver toxicity. And it's interesting that they have almost the exact same limit. Oh, it is the exact same limit, 4,000 milligram. All right, let's open this up. Now, I did notice a couple of these have this little sticker here that says pharmacy only. And I believe that seems to be some sort of legal definition, I'm guessing, here in Ireland. It's almost like this package takes the place of the very important medication labeling requirements in America. One guy here. Oh! Well, ooh. The experience at the Irish pharmacy was much different in the United States. They ask you a lot of questions. In the U.S., if a pharmacist asks, you know, what type of pain are you having? People will not take too kindly to that. They just want to walk in, get their medicine, and leave. And in Ireland, it doesn't work that way. You pretty much have a consultation with the pharmacy staff for anything you want to buy. They want to know what type of meds you're on. They want to know how long you've been using this, or how long you plan to use this. They want to make sure that you're using everything correctly, which was really refreshing. I wish we had the time and the culture in America to be doing that, but as you guys know, there's no way an American pharmacist could take the time to talk to everyone who buys anything in a pharmacy ever. Here's something great. We do not have this in America. Waxall. Look at the active ingredient here. Docusate sodium for easy removal of wax. This is incredibly special, and I am so excited. I started to cry whenever I saw this a little bit. And we're going to test this out here. So Docusate in America we use as a stool softener, and it is completely ineffective. It's probably going to be taken off the market here in the next couple years. And what this is it's a surfactant. It kind of makes bubbles. It's essentially soap. People like to debate on what the actual definition of soap is, but regardless, if I shake this up, it'll make bubbles. Now it's 0.5% eardrops solution. And I don't know how to use this because we don't have this in America, so I have to find out. Try this out. What it says here is we fill up his ear with this stuff. What happened to your ear, by the way?
Usually once every year or two, I'll try to clean my ear and I'll accidentally push some wax like deeper in.
Oh.
So it ends up giving me some imbalance issues and some headaches and stuff because one side is clogged but the other isn't. And then usually it's either this or a procedure where they flush it out with water. But
you can see the bubbling from the surfactant here because whenever I was squirting it in, I kind of did a little bit aggressively. This is essentially soap. I don't know if you heard me talking on camera there. It has a hydrophobic end and a hydrophilic end, and it films a little bubble around everything.
Whoa. I can hear.
What?
I think the most painful and annoying part is that it like blocks the ear canal, so I don't feel balanced. Like, and now I can hear out of both ears. That's great. Wow. It worked. So
It didn't take very long, did it? It was just a couple minutes.
no, and I still feel like it didn't perfectly clear everything out. Like I probably need to wash it out or flush it or something, but it did break it up.
Yeah.
Like, I can feel it breaking up in there.
Wow. Go Ireland. One of my favorite things here about Ireland is actually not the medication. I know that's kind of hard to believe coming from someone like me, but it's actually the writers, the Irish poets. Our friend James Joyce, who has a statue to our right, and another one who has a statue down here to our left. His name was Patrick Kavanagh, and he used to walk along a road called Raglan Road, and there he saw one of the most beautiful things heaven has ever created, and her name was Hilda Moriarty, a medical student somewhere here in Ireland. Kavanagh, in his 5th decade of life, was falling in love with somebody who was in her 20s, and knowing that they would never be able to have a true family or love relationship, it became very apparent in his writing. On Raglan Road on an autumn day I met her first and knew that her dark hair would weave a snare that I might one day rue. I saw the danger, yet I walked along the enchanted way, and I said, let grief be a fallen leaf at the dawning of the day. On Raglan Road, widely considered to be Kavanagh's magnum opus, actually isn't that good of a poem, really. The rhyming structure is seemingly trite or hackneyed, although that may get a pass because we're here in Dublin. Some of the words seem to be forced to make rhymes, and they don't really fit with the rest of the stanzas. But what's spectacular about this poem isn't the actual construction of it itself. It's that in the last stanza, Kavanagh seemingly predicts his own demise. On a quiet street where old ghosts meet, I see her walking now, away from me so hurriedly my reason must allow that I had wooed not as I should, a creature made of clay. When the angel woos the clay, he'd lose his wings at the dawn of day. Perhaps over-encumbered by the pending unrequision to come, Kavanagh knew that there was no way that they were going to be able to form a true romantic relationship. This grief in his heart created some of the greatest poetry that we've ever seen. This is only one example. He had several others written about this woman. Although their friendship did grow into love, Hilda Moriarty went off to marry somebody else, and Kavanagh spent most of his life alone, marrying only a few months before his own death. The irony here is this soon-to-be physician, between the ventricles and mitral valves of Kavanagh's heart, couldn't find love or a family, but instead a magnificent poem. An ode to all those who search for the same thing, but only find unrequited love. This poem, known worldwide as a testament to love, has not affected just everybody, but also me personally. A book I wrote called A Poet's Conceit, also loosely based on this love tragedy, Except instead of Raglan Road, it takes place in Rutland Road in New York City. As I come to the end of this journey along these James Joyce drenched streets, I wonder what it is about Ireland and their pharmacy that does better than America. And although I'm the last person in the world to make disparaging remarks about a country, especially my own, I think there's a lot of good to be seen in Irish pharmacies. For example, whenever buying medication, you have to talk to the staff. You have to talk to the pharmacist or maybe an assistant, I don't know. They need to make sure that what you're buying is an appropriate medication for your indication. We don't do that in America. You just simply point at something or you pick it off the shelf and you buy it. And a lot of people would argue that this is a way of empowering people to be in charge of their own healthcare, which I fully support. But what we see a lot of times in America is that people often get confused and they buy the wrong product or they buy an overly expensive product or something. Things that shouldn't see the light of day become bestsellers. This is pretty tough for an American mind to comprehend. They say, I'm an adult. Why do I need another adult to tell me what to do? But I would argue that the Irish version of pharmacy uses their clinical knowledge to help empower people to make the right decisions. What may on the surface to an American look like a restriction, to me actually looks like the ultimate way of helping people make the best possible personal decisions they can. I'm a big fan of this, but realistically it's not even practical. Pharmacists in the United States don't even have time to go to the bathroom, let alone ask somebody every time they need to buy cough medicine what type of cough they have. All is not perfect here in Ireland, though. One thing I don't like is the packaging. It's not clear enough. There's not enough information. It's difficult, I think, once somebody has a product to use it correctly. And I didn't realize until this trip that we actually do that quite well in America. Our packaging and the directions are all standardized, and it looks the same and it's easy to read. So I don't really know what the answer is, what the perfect solution is, but I think I do want to ask someone here and see what they have to say. What do you think, bloke? What's the right answer? What, are you too busy making another painting? Nah, I think he's too busy making another painting.